In this video, you're going to see the top 2 lure killing mistakes that I see even advanced anglers make when they're rigging their soft plastics. This covers really any soft plastic. We're going to show the Prawn Juniors here. And we'll start with jig heads. This is the most common mistake. I did it for many years, even as a professional angler. I did it for multiple years. And then once I realized it, now it's painful to watch it happen. So here is the normal rigging, right? Everything's fine. Everybody does this fine. Where the mistake happens is right here. At this point, most people, again, myself included for many years, we would just push it straight up. Every time you take it on or off, the barbs, the keepers, are going to tear some of the plastic. Even if you're using the TPE material, right? It's not perfect. It still will tear. And there's nothing we can do about that. But what we can do is we can decide where exactly the tear happens. And so obviously we don't want the tear to happen in the normal orientation, because when we're using the lure, what prevents it from sliding down and looking like this, which would be terrible to the water, is the fact that these keepers have material to hold on to. So before we shove it up, we twist it 90 degrees. That way the tears are happening in the other orientation, where now we don't really care if it gets torn a little bit. So we do it 90 degrees, push it all the way up to the area that you want, right there where the lure is flush against the jig head, and then we twist it back. Now, again, now the orientation that we're fishing, all this plastic on both sides is clean. It was not damaged, and just a little bit of damage happened on the side. So this thing is on there super good. I've actually even rigged this before. It's on there great. And then if we want to take it off, right, instead of just ripping it down, like again, most of us do, we twist it 90 degrees back to that orientation, and then we push it down, right? And now that tear always happens on the sides and not on the top and bottom. So super easy mistake to make. The good news is that it's super easy to fix. You literally just twist it 90 degrees and you're back in action again. Even after those multiple twists, this thing is on there really good. And so with that one little trick, you're gonna be able to catch way more fish per lure than you ever used to. So now we'll cover the weedless football jig. This is my personal favorite rig for fishing deep water. I can now cover deep water around structure without getting snagged. It has been a total game changer for me, and it's becoming one of our top selling jig heads. And so how it works though is we of course rig it like a worm hook. This is basically a worm hook with a swivel head on the top. Most people think that that swivel head means the more action the better. That's not the case with shrimp lures. This prawn lure catches way more fish when that head is fixed. Also, the lure lasts longer when it's fixed. So when we rig it, we want to fill this entire gap in between the jig head and this bend of the hook. We want to fill that entire gap. So when we go through the lure, we want all that gap to be there. We want as much material right here as possible, because this is the material that holds the lure onto the hook. So instead of going in like an 1/8 of an inch, like most people do, I'll just go ahead and do it. Most people just pop out right there, right? Super, super weak, and then slide it up again, which is fine. It still works. But now what happens is that first of all, this head is swiveling, and I have yet to see a shrimp that head moves. So that alone is bad, right? It's kind of tendency, more action is better. But again, more action that's not natural is definitely not better. So a shrimp does not have a head that swivels, problem number one. Problem number two is that we just have a little bit of material here. So with this, even if you hook into a ladyfish, which you really have very violent head shakes, they can actually damage a small piece of plastic like that, which would not be good. That could be a costly day. So instead of doing the weak way, we do it the strong way, and it's very simple as well, right? This simple trick can save a ton of money over time. So instead of popping out after like an 1/8 of an inch, we now go through and we go through more like 3/4 of an inch. So we get a lot more material through the hook. Then we slide it over that bend. It'll naturally twist into formation, and then we actually push it up all the way to the jig head. You have multiple benefits. Let me just go ahead and rig it so you can see the final product. But you have multiple benefits of doing it this way. Number one is this head is now fixed like a natural shrimp. The head is not moving all over the place. It looks natural in the water. Number two is this skips much better under docks or under trees, whatever you're fishing. When the head wobbles, like that first instance that I showed, it catches the water and the skips are terrible. But now that you fixed it, it's now in a proper orientation where it'll hit the water and it'll skip more effectively. And number three, best of all, right, as mentioned before, now we have all this material that's holding our lure onto the rig, so that we can now catch way more fish per lure than ever before. And so if you're making either of those mistakes, please give that solution a try. You'll be shocked at how much stronger your lure connection is to your jig head. And in case you haven't tried either of these combos, make sure to give these a try as well. These Prawn USA lures have been responsible for the most overslot snook that I've ever caught in a year with artificial lures. Also my biggest redfish on lure, the most cobia I've ever caught on reefs, the most triple tail I've caught under buoys. Also trout, flounder, grouper, snapper, even sheep's head, pretty much anything that eats shrimp will hit these lures. And of course we have multiple sizes to match the hatch, but if you haven't yet tried these prawn lures, make sure to give them a try. It's the only shrimp lure that I've ever seen that can cover the shallows extremely well with light rigging hooks, while also being able to go out to deep water and stay weedless around structure. It has been a total game changer for me. These lures and these Haas jig heads are only available at fishjarn.com, so make sure to try them out and we guarantee you'll like them. So if you get these and you somehow don't think that they're the best shrimp lure you've ever used, just let us know and we'll refund the money. To pick these up, just go to fishjarn.com, links down below, and I can't wait to see some awesome fish you catch with these great lures.